All right, today we're going to get into one of the most frustrating human experiences there is, having these huge, amazing goals and then finding yourself doing absolutely nothing. Let's figure out why that happens.
I mean, seriously, who hasn't been here? You map out a new business or a fitness plan or some big creative project. You're all excited, you're motivated, and then a week later, you haven't even taken the first step. It's a universal feeling for sure. But what if I told you the reason for it has nothing to do with your character?
That's right, the story that we all tell ourselves that we're just lazy or we're not motivated enough, it's just flat out wrong. There's a very specific and honestly a pretty fascinating cycle happening inside your brain that keeps you stuck.
So, okay, if it's not some kind of character flaw, then what is it? Well, the answer isn't about time management. It's all about emotion management.
A researcher named Tim Pitchell, who studied this stuff for decades, says procrastination is basically an emotion regulation problem. When we look at a big or difficult task, our brain just cooks up these negative feelings, right? It could be anxiety, or fear of failure, or just pure overwhelm. And our brain hates feeling bad. So to get rid of that awful feeling, we do something else, anything else, and we get this little hit of relief.
And that feeling of relief? That's the key. It's the reward. It teaches our brain a really dangerous lesson, and it locks us into what's called the avoidance loop. And here's how it works.
The cycle is, dangerously simple. It starts with a trigger, that hard thing you have to do. Then comes the negative emotion, that feeling of dread. So we escape it by doing something else. Maybe we check our phone or clean the kitchen, and bam, there's the reward, that little sigh of relief. And because behaviors that get rewarded get repeated, our brain learns, hey, avoiding this stuff feels pretty good. It becomes this automatic default habit.
So what's really happening is this battle between two key parts of your brain. On one side, you've got the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's alarm system. It sees a scary task and treats it like a genuine prey, just screaming, avoid this. On the other side is your action system, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. We'll just call it the DAC. That's the part that says, hey, we can handle this, let's go. When you procrastinate, it just means your amygdala won the fight. It's an amygdala hijack. Your emotional brain totally overrides your rational one.
And here's why this gets so much worse over time. Every single time you run through that avoidance loop, you are physically strengthening the neural pathway for procrastination. Seriously, that circuit in your brain gets faster and stronger, while your discipline circuit, that let's do this muscle, it just gets weaker from not being used.
So if your brain can train itself into this mess, the good news is it can be trained out of it. Absolutely. And after 20 years of research, Tim Pitchell found the solution is, well, it's almost comically simple.
That's it. That's the whole thing. You don't have to finish it. You don't even have to do it well. You just have to start. Even for 5 or 10 minutes, the simple act of just beginning is powerful enough to break that entire avoidance loop and start building a new, better habit.
Okay, so how do you actually do it? 2 steps. First, you have to catch it and name it. When you feel yourself drifting away from the task, just pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Simply naming it, like I'm feeling anxious about this, helps shift you out of your emotional brain and back into your rational one. Second, make it stupidly small. Don't think I have to do a 1-hour workout. Your only goal is I have to put on my workout shoes. Don't think I have to write the whole report. Nope, your only job is to open the document and write for 10 minutes. That's it.
Now, I know this might sound way too simple, but the evidence for it is really compelling. Pitchell ran this brilliant study where he gave students pagers, this was a while ago, and he'd ping them 8 times a day for 5 days before a big deadline, asking them what they were up to and how they were feeling.
So early in the week, the procrastinators were just full of these justifications. You've probably heard these before, maybe even said them yourself. Oh, I work better under pressure. I'll be more inspired tomorrow. They were just swapping out the hard assignment for more fun activities.
But once that deadline forced them to actually get started, their tune completely changed. Not a single one of them was happy they'd waited. Every single one wished they had started sooner. And this is the crucial part. They admitted the task wasn't nearly as bad as they had built it up to be in their minds. The dread of starting was way worse than the actual act of doing the work.
Now you might be thinking, but wait, I'm not just sitting on the couch, I'm always busy. Well, that's because your brain is clever. It knows that doing literally nothing makes you feel guilty, which is another negative emotion. So it finds ways to disguise avoidance as productivity.
So the first disguise is perfectionism. We like to think it's about having high standards, but a lot of the time it's just a fear that our work won't be good enough. And that fear is so powerful that it stops us from even starting. Because
Hey, if you never start, you can never fall short, right?
And this isn't just a theory. It's kind of counterintuitive, but research actually shows that professors who score higher on perfectionism, they publish fewer academic papers. Their obsession with getting everything perfect just paralyzes them, while their colleagues who are okay with good enough actually get way more done.
Okay, the second disguise is even sneakier, and this one gets almost everybody. It's called productive procrastination. This is when you swap that really important, high-stakes task for a safer, easier task that still makes you feel like you accomplished something. It's just a quick way to fix your mood.
Does any of this sound familiar? You spend hours color-coding your notes instead of writing the actual essay. You endlessly tweak your resume instead of, applying for jobs. You read 10 books on how to start a business instead of just starting it. You might even be watching videos about productivity right now instead of actually being productive. You feel busy, but that one scary task that actually matters hasn't moved an inch.
So if there's one core idea to take away from all of this, one single insight that can really change everything, it's this.
This right here is the whole game. You are not avoiding the work itself. You are avoiding the feeling you think the work is going to cause. And here's the kicker. Your brain is almost always wrong about how bad that feeling will actually be. The anticipation is the worst part. The moment you start, that dread usually just melts away.
So that brings us to the final question. Thinking about that big thing you've been putting off, what is the smallest, easiest, most ridiculously simple first step you could take in the next 5 minutes? Not tomorrow, not later today, right now. Because just starting, that's how you win the battle in your brain.